Hello YouTubers! I will be going through this week's games, review last week's tips and leaderboard of our footy tip comp, and also go through my Brownlow Votes for season 2025. My Brownlow Votes after the conclusion of round 13 are: in top spot we have B. Smith Geelong with 25 votes, and in second spot we got N. Dacos Collingwood with 20 votes, and in third spot we have Tom Green GWS Giants with 17 votes, and two players tied in fourth spot are C. Sarong Fremantle and N. Anderson of Gold Coast, both with 16 votes to be tied in fourth spot. Let's have a look at my round 13 votes. 50-50, I only got 4 out of 8 correct. I got the Doggies wrong, the Lions wrong, the Tigers wrong, and the Giants wrong. The only games got right was Geelong beat the Suns, the Kangas over West Coast by 10 points, the Blues beat Essendon by 8 points, and Collingwood, yeah, they were the 4 out of 8 I got correct. Let's see the Talking Everything AFL leaderboard after round 13. In top spot with 72 votes is Potter 1. Then two players tied in second spot with 71 votes are Patrick L32 and I Am Hacks. In fourth spot, you got me, Talking Everything AFL, with 69 votes. These are the top 4 for the 2025 footy tips of the Talking Everything AFL tips. Alright, let's see how we go for round 14. Come on. Before we continue, I would like to ask for a very small favour. If you enjoy this AFL content, please take a sec to subscribe to the channel and like the video. That would be awesome. Okay, let's return back to the show. First game played of the week is between St Kilda Saints and the Western Bulldogs, played at Marvel Stadium in Victoria. Last week, St Kilda had to bye, whereas the Doggies had a very disappointing Thursday night loss to Hawthorn Hawks by 22 points. The players injured for the Saints are Cordy, Dow, Howard and Max King. The players injured for the Doggies are Croft, Jones, Scott and Waitman. The players in the mix for the Saints are Collard, Garcia and McLellan. For the Doggies, big one, Sam Darcy, Caulfield, Clines and Jag. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield set of the two respective sides. For St Kilda, they've got Marshall and ruck with the midfields of Steele, Sinclair, Wood, Hill and Philippou, compared to the Doggies of, you got English and ruck with the midfields of LeBont, Lever, Richards, Williams, Fraser. Just comparing the two sides, English against Marshall, say that's in between the two, but then you got a young Bont in the making, Philippou against LeBont, give the choice to LeBont, and got inside mids of Lever against Steele, I give the choice to Lever just. You got the skillful Brad Hill against Williams, so I just give the choice to Williams. And then you got Sinclair who's a gun, but Ed Richards is a gun as well, I give the choice to Richards. And it's pretty even between Fraser and Wood. And I just give the choice to the Western Bulldogs ruck midfield setup, where you got the returning Darcy with Norton up forward to kick goals, and on tip the Doggies to beat St Kilda Saints by 18 points. And also the Saints had a bye, and usually teams that have the bye tend to struggle the week that they're back playing. The second game of the week, played on a Friday night at Tasmania, is between Hawthorn Hawks and the LA Crows. The Hawks had a good 22-point win against the Doggies on a Thursday night, and last week the Crows had a good 5-point win over the Brisbane Lions in very wet weather conditions. So both sides have good wins on the weekend. The players injured for the Hawks are Day, Hill, Lewis, Ryan and Sicily. For the Crows, they'll be missing Crouch, the two Murray brothers, Oscar Ryan, Welsh and also Peeting to suspension. The players in the mix for the Hawks are Wizard Watson, Mackenzie, Sarong, Frost and Bruce. For the Crows, their players in the mix are Draper, Taylor, Nankervis or Murphy. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield set of the two respective sides. For the Hawks, you got Meekin ruck with the midfields of Newcombe, Warpel, Nash, Morris, Damon. For the Crows, you got O'Brien in ruck with the midfields of Saligo, Rankin, Cumming, Dawson, and potentially Draper if he's in this week. Just looking at that, you got Meek against O'Brien. So it's even between those two players. Then you got Newcombe against Saligo. I'll give the chocolates to Newcombe. Then you got Rankin against Walpole. Expect Rankin to do well in that position. And I've got Nash doing the negating role against Dawson. I'll give the chocolates to Dawson. And you got Amon and Cumming. I'll give the chocolates to Amon with his elite kicking and his running. And Morrison against Draper. So it's even between those two players. Therefore, I'll give Hawthorn's midfield just an edge. And if Hawthorn gets a running game going against the Crows, and it's in Tasmania, Friday night, the Hawks know how to play that ground well. It's a home ground for the Hawks, even though it's in Tasmania. I'm going to tip the Hawks just to beat the Crows by 7 points in a nail-biter. Third game of the week is between the Brisbane Lions and the GWS Giants. Last week, the Lions had a close loss to the Crows by 5 points, and the Giants had a disappointing 16-point loss to Port Adelaide Power at home in Canberra, where the Giants had only kicked 1 goal in the second half. The players injured for the Lions are Coleman, Day, McCarthy, Smith and Starcevich, whereas the Giants will be missing Briggs, Callaghan, Cogniglio, Goffard, Hannaford, Stringer and now Ward for the whole entire of season 2025. The players in the mix for the Lions are the Big O, McInerney, Joyce and Bickham. For the Giants, their players in the mix are Delana, Rosen and Mayer. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield setup of the two respective sides. For the Lions, in ruck, you got Darcy Fort with the gun midfields of Dunkley, Neal, Bailey, Berry, Levi Ashcroft. For the Giants in ruck, you got Briggs, McMullen, Green, that's Tom Green, Bedford, Ware, and Kelly. Just looking at that, I give Fort the advantage of Briggs in ruck. Then the midfields, Dunkley, Neal against Tom Green and McMullen. Look at the class, Ware against Berry of the Lions. Just looking at the Lions midfield, so much class. I expect the Lions to win a lot of stoppages and clearances and provide a lot of inside 50s for their forwards of your Hitwood, Cameron, Rayner, Morris, and therefore I'm going to select the Lions to beat GWS Giants by 28 points. Fourth game, played on a Saturday afternoon, is between Essendon Bombers and Geelong at the MCG. The players injured for the Bombers are Bryan, Sam Draper, Edwards, Elhali, Hayes, Langford, Jones, McKay, Nwing, Reid, Ridley. Wow, so many players out, testing the depth of the Essendon's list. For Geelong, the players that injured are Conway, Edwards, Hoffman, Koldowski and Moynier. The players in the mix for the Bombers are Disasters, Shield and McMahon. For the Cats, their players in the mix, Bailey Smith, what a big in, Henry and Kniewert. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield set of the two respective sides. For the Bombers, you got Goldstein in ruck with the midfielders of Caldwell, Durham, Dersma, Merritt and Clark. For the Cats, you got Stanley in ruck with the midfielders of Smith, Atkins, Holmes, Gipkaz and Dempsey. Just looking at the Geelong's midfield, you got two players that can run and carry with speed, Bailey Smith and Holmes. And you got Dempsey, who's a magnificent player on the wing and kicks goals and runs back hard transition defense. Just looking at Geelong's midfield, they've got a lot of class, they'll win a lot of stoppages and also can hurt you on the rebound and with their run and carry. I'm going to tip Geelong to beat Essendon by 28 points. The next game, played on a Saturday night, is between North Melbourne Kangaroos and Fremantle Dockers at Optus Stadium. North Melbourne is playing a home game at Optus Stadium. North Melbourne last week had a good 10-point win against the West Coast Eagles, whereas at Fremantle went to bye. The players injured for the Roos are Archer, Bergman, Goda, Tucker and Comben. For the Dockers, they'll be missing Jones, Narkle, Simpson, Sturt, Walker, Walters, Warner and Hayden Young. The players in the mix for the Roos are Harvey, Dawson and Tickle. The players in the mix for the Fremantle Dockers are Dudley and Simpson. Where the game will be won at, It's the ruck midfield setup of the two respective sides. For North Melbourne, you got Xavier in ruck with the midfields of Wardlaw, Powell, Stevens, LDU and Simpkin. For Fremantle, you got Darcy in ruck with the midfields of Sarong, Brayshaw, Bolton, Sharp, Johnson. And looking at the Fremantle's midfield, Darcy against Xavier, I'll just give a chocolates to Xavier, but the midfields, Sarong against Wardlaw, Brayshaw against Powell, Bolton against LDU, Sharp against Stevens, and Johnson against Simpkin. Fremantle have so much class in the midfield. I expect the Dockers to win a lot of stoppages and contested possession to provide a lot of inside 50 to the players of Amos and Patrick Ross, and also Dudley to kick goals. I'm going to tip Fremantle to beat North Melbourne Kangaroos by 26 points. The next game, played on a Sunday afternoon, is between Port Adelaide and Melbourne Demons. The players injured for the Power are Crockham, Jones, Lukosius, Marshall, Moss and Walsh. For the D's, they'll be missing Johnson, McAdam, Moitz Wakefoot and Spargo. The players in the mix for the Power are Burn Jones, Horn Francis, Biggin, Sweet and Emmons. For the D's, their players in the mix are Jefferson, Sharp and Cully. Where the game will be won at, it's Melbourne's full line or Port's defence. In the full line for the D's, you got Langford, Ranrowan, Fritz, Melsham, Petty and Pickett. For the Power, in defence, you got Farrell, Alia, Sin, Bergman, Ragalia and Zerk Thatcher. And look at the two key forwards for Melbourne of Petty and Ranrowan. I don't know if either players can kick 4 goals each. The dangerous small forward that the Demons have is Cozzy Pickett. I expect him to kick 3 to 5 goals. And just look at Melbourne's full line, I'm not sure where they're going to get 12 goals or 70 points. And with Horn Francis a big in, and Port Adelaide having an extra 2-day break over Melbourne who played on King's birthday, I'm going to tip Port to beat Melbourne by 15 points. The last game of the week, played on a Sunday twilight, is between West Coast Eagles and Carlton at Optus Stadium. Last week, West Coast Eagles lost to North Melbourne Kangaroos by 10 points, and Carlton had a close 8-point win against Essendon Bombers at MCG on the Sunday night. The players injured for the Eagles are McGovern to concussion, always will miss the game against his old side, Sheed, Warman and Yo. For the Blues, they'll be missing Cottrell, Smith, Kemp and Newman. The players in for the Eagles are Long, Hull and B. Williams. The players in the mix for the Blues are McKay, that will be a big in, Durden, Binns and Young. Where the game will be won at, it's the ruck midfield setup of the two respective sides. For the Eagles, you got Flynn in ruck with the midfields of Hugh, Reid, Kelly, Hunt and Hutchinson. For the Blues, you got DeConing in ruck with the midfields of Sarah, Walsh, P. Cripps, Lord and Akers. If we compare the two sides, I expect DeConing to win the ruck headouts against Flynn, and then you got the midfields of Sarah, Walsh, Cripps against Hugh, Reid and Kelly. Just looking at the two sides, I expect Carlton to win more stoppages and clearance, and if they can get enough inside 50 to Kerno, McKay and even Zach Williams up forward, they're going to kick a big score. I'm going to tip Carlton to beat West Coast Eagles by 36 points. My tips for round 14 are the Bulldogs to beat the Saints, the Hawks to beat the Crows at Tassie, the Lions to beat the Giants at home, the Cats to beat the Bombs at the G, Fremantle to win away against North Melbourne at Optus Stadium, even though it's at Optus Stadium, but it's an away game, the Power to beat the D's, and the Blues to beat the Eagles at Optus Stadium. Thank you for watching my video, and it will be appreciated if you can subscribe and comment to my videos. Hopefully you enjoyed my video, and see you next time. Cheers or bye.